Feedback on PTS 7.0. I will be posting this on the Focus forum, but I wanted to share with my brothers here and humbly request your input and thoughts. In general, this update is great and definitely improves the game. I do agree. I wanted to make a video of my thoughts on the PTS, but I think, basically bouncing off some feedback and seeing how the community feels about it is a good way to kind of, gather my thoughts about how I really feel about the PTS. But yes, I do generally agree that this update is great and improves the game. The new operation stands out in particular. The environment is fresh and awesome, and the plot premise is very solid and interesting. The Inferno pistol doesn't suit my personal playstyle, but it's a great option to add to the sidearm menu and works really well with certain builds of classes like Sniper. Yes, I agree. The new cosmetics are great by and large. I'm very excited to play around with the Space Wolves cosmetics. Customizing Bulwark's cloth is awesome. I would love to see it happen for Sniper as well in the future. Yes, this is a great point. Sniper, the cape should be customizable. It's kind of annoying with seeing the cape have like the same pattern. It should definitely be customizable, 100%. I would also love to see champion skins become equipable pieces by piece. Okay, I'm not too sure if we're getting that, but that is interesting. I have seen that requested before. I want this the Space Wolves pauldrons from the champion skin, but I'm not holding my breath for this. The loosened weapon restrictions make a lot of sense to me and are very welcome. As someone who enjoys solos, I am particularly happy to have more powerful sidearm options as it increases the versatility of multiple classes and builds. Solo Bulwark now has an easier time with zoanthropes. I would be in favor of giving Assault the Inferno pistol. I know it makes zero sense from a gameplay point of view to choose it as Assault, but this game is also about role-playing or 40k dreams, and there are a lot of Blood Angel Assaults out there dying for it. All right, well, hey, yeah, I agree. If a lot of Assault players request the Inferno pistol, then sure. But they would basically be a matchup nightmare for zoanthropes. Giving Heavy the heavy bolt rifle was a similar decision. It made some lore fans happy, which is a good thing, despite being almost certainly the worst choice of weapon for the class. Yeah, it is. The heavy bolt rifle, in order to be like a heavy viable weapon, just needs a base damage buff. But the thing is, if you buff the damage of the heavy bolt rifle for tactical, the heavy bolt rifle will overshadow every other bolt rifle. So I don't know. I'm not too sure how you can approach the heavy bolt rifle with heavy without absolutely breaking it on tactical. You know what I mean? The reworked weapon perks are a step in the right direction. They have gone up a level in terms of how meaningful they are, but I would urge you to be even bolder with trying to make them more impactful, especially at Relic tier. I'm not pretending to understand what it takes to balance games, but my general message would be to try and make them as impactful as possible to encourage people to spend time experimenting with different weapon builds. Yeah, I mean, the reworked weapon perks for me is definitely an improvement, 100%. I think they're just there. There's like maybe one or two perks that aren't very interesting. I think some of the perks where you need to get like 10 consecutive kills basically to activate it. I think those perks should go down to like 5 kills or something. I just think 10 is a little bit of a little bit of a stretch, and practically makes the weapon practically makes the perks useless if, you're with your teammates and you're all kind of sharing kills. To get like 10 successive kills is kind of tough. At least, it's tough to make it common. And I think some of the perks that activate on, like, basically on successive kills, they should be, more common than, 10 kills. They should be around 5, I think, would make them a bit more usable, for sure. A couple weapons could use some love. The Instigator and Power Sword stand out to me. Both have received buff recently. Okay, well, the Instigator with the Sniper is good, but the Power Sword, yeah, the Power Sword needs another buff. It was recently buffed, but I think it should just be buffed again. The Speed mode, specifically, to be completely honest. And I agree with the slow and steady approach you've taken. I would just say keep going with both. The Power Sword in particular is such a classic 40k weapon, and wielding it should feel extremely powerful. Many prestige perks could be much more impactful, especially for assault. In general, I hope that at least most prestige perks were stronger, more impactful than normal class perks. Some of them are at least level of impact you would expect. Vanguard, 20% range damage at 80 meters. But some of them are just big flat. Oh, some of them are just a bit flat. Take Assault, for example. Assault needs a lot more love in general, but its prestige perks are especially poor by comparison. No Stagger after a gun strike is a much worse version of Vanguard's upper hand perk, as is the perk that increases parry block windows by half as much as Vanguard's equivalent class perk. Oh, that's true. That is, yeah. That's interesting. I still like Duelist, though. Putting Duelist on heavy, not heavy, sorry. Putting Duelist on Assault was a great idea. This seems completely wrong to me. I would recommend a rework of Assault's core perks at some point to maximize the synergies of different builds, and I would definitely recommend buffing some of the prestige perks. I would recommend giving it a prestige perk that focused on ability regeneration, and one that gives it at least a tiny amount of health regeneration. Yeah, I agree. The direction of Heavy's prestige perks is strange and needs a rethink in my view. To me, prestige perks are supposed to do two things: reinforce the specialty of a class to make it even better at that thing, and take the bite. And number two, take the bite out of its weaknesses as a class. Yeah, I definitely agree. Many of the prestige perks do this, buffing the range damage of Bulwark and Assault with heavy melee damage is weakness, so I understand having some prestige perks associated with it. But there are missed opportunities to do more with its other weaknesses like ammo economy or maximizing its strength by dealing even more range damage. I mean, yeah, but so here's the thing with Heavy. I think the opportunity to give them even more range damage, I think they took that opportunity with the perk reworks, you know? So, I don't know, that's interesting. I still need to try out some of Heavy's other weapons, but the Heavy bolt rifle definitely needs some sort of buff to be with the Heavy class. I just don't know what type of buff it could be. Let me know in the comments if you have any ideas for a good Heavy bolt rifle buff for Heavy that wouldn't overshadow all the other bolt rifles. And, okay, yes, and then the other part of Heavy's prestige perks with the melee, I actually think the melee's pretty useful. I just think there's maybe one or two perks that are just weird in the prestige perks. You know, in general, the perks where it's like, hey, if you pick up an armor pack or if you pick up an ammo pack, you get this type of buff. I think those prestige perks are a little weird, 100%. They should just activate on like executions or something, but it really depends. I am a fan of the ammo regeneration on Extremist Execute for Heavy secondary though, so a big thumbs up on that one. I would urge you to come up with a couple more like this and reduce the focus on melee damage. Finally, thank you both for an amazing game and taking the time to read all this way. I absolutely love this game and hope you'll take this feedback in a positive spirit in which it is intended. The Emperor protects. Yeah, a big W post right here. This was a great post. I think most of what this person laid out here is the general sentiment of how people feel about the PTS. The heavy prestige perks and the assault prestige perks need just a little bit of an adjustment. Like, the pieces are there. The pieces are there. Giving assault a little bit of extra range damage is actually pretty useful, to be completely honest. And yeah, some of the heavy perks are definitely a little bit weird. For me, the perks that just don't feel like they're useful are basically the perks that are just very situational. Like, hey, if you pick up a stim pack, you'll get extra ability charge or something. Like, I don't know, that's weird. I'm not sure if that exact perk exists, but the perks that are similar to that, I just feel like are a little bit tedious. And then there's some perks where it's like, oh, heavy hits don't hit you back or whatever. I don't know what's going on with those perks. I haven't never really focused on them, to be completely honest. So seeing them in the prestige wheel is a little, you know, it's not very interesting to me to use because I just don't focus on that sort of buff. Maybe I should. Maybe I should get a little bit more poise in my builds and maybe I'll notice a difference. Hey, you know what? It might be something to try out. But yeah, in general, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. This is definitely like the good and bad of the PTS. Buffing melee damage on a class without a melee weapon is only slightly more useful than buffing primary range damage on a class that doesn't have primary ranged weaponry. A very weird decision considering your first impulse as heavy when you get caught in a melee combat situation should be to break contact and run away ASAP. Yeah, see that? I don't like that. I don't like that. I would rather see the heavy be able to stand its ground, you know what I mean? Adding a perk that buffs melee seems really dumb, albeit I wouldn't be against making the heavy able to parry like his gun was a fencing weapon and got an extended dodge window. That would fit the strategy. Ooh, giving heavy duelist. That would be actually kind of sick. That I agree with that. That would be very, very cool. But still, hey, you know what? I'll tell you what. If you're gonna give the heavy duelist, you should continue what you're doing with heavy's melee with heavy's melee perks, because that would be great. That would actually be really cool. Heavy's melee attacks actually do a lot of damage. It's just a little awkward to use because the stomping can be a little slow. But hey, you know what? If you had a fencing heavy weapon, that would be sick. Great post. I agree with the vast majority of your comments. However, there are some points with heavy. It seems like a lot of people have some thoughts about heavy. Okay, let's continue this. I'm not a fan of adding buffs to his range damage. It's already extremely strong. I don't want the highest difficulties to become an easy blast fest. Ammo economy is the biggest weakness. Generally, you run out of ammo and you're dead. I might be wrong, but it appears they are pushing the melee options to reduce the need to blast everything, including minorists with guns. Sure, you can just blast everything and people do, and then complain about ammo economy. However, if you have a strong AoE melee and you're selective, it will improve ammo economy. Yeah, this guy is right. Like, honestly, I've been thinking about melee heavy ever since I made that video, and something about it just makes me want to go back to it. I don't know what it is, but heavy feels really good with really good melee damage. I just think, yeah, the other perks on heavy, it feels like for heavy and assault, there's like 4 prestige perks and then 3 that are absolutely useless. So, not 100% sure how to really go about balancing that. But I gotta say, I do enjoy the extra melee damage. I'm not talking about the melee-focused heavy builds, just perks that help to effectively use it in the right situation. I get it, the perks appear lackluster, and people want exciting, worthwhile perks. However, they've already said they're struggling with ideas around difficulty, and the perks will make the game easier. Yeah. I mean, dude, here's the thing about the difficulty in the game right now. I feel like we're good with damage breakpoints for the most part. I do like the idea of heavy melee. But the one thing that really just makes this game difficult to play is the heal economy. So I just think it'll be interesting to see if there was a sort of perk that could help healing for most of these classes. And it doesn't need to be anything too aggressive. Just simply having adrenaline rush on the Vanguard makes it feel more worthwhile to play aggressive. And that's still something that you have to navigate. You have to navigate how aggressive you can be with 5% healing. The 5% healing is purely just to get Vanguard over those situations where it's like, wow, that situation was practically unwinnable. We defeated it, but now I have a little piece of health. But hey, you know what? I have adrenaline rush, and that is going to push me through the operation. You're still in positions where you have to perform well. The healing isn't going to take out enemies for you. The healing is just there just to, continue pushing your class through the operation. And hey, if you miss parries, you will still die. You will still die. So that's why I think Adrenaline Rush is actually just a great prestige perk, like practically across the board. But for the most part, I do understand where, like, if every class has built-in healing, it might be a little overpowered, and maybe those higher difficulties won't feel as hard anymore. But still, for the most part, I do think the difficulty comes with the situations we are in, and not overall, and not the heal economy, at least overall. Right now, the heal economy is hard to adjust to because, in absolute, there isn't a heal economy. So it's kind of interesting. I think prestige perks should definitely should definitely support the health bar a little bit. At least one perk for each class should have some sort of health support. It doesn't have to be Adrenaline Rush, but it should be something. You know what I mean? At the very least, maybe even having your contested health fade away a little bit slower would help some of these classes just, support their health a little bit. Okay, let's continue with the post. They seem to be going for subtlety. They may still change things around for the release, but I'm sure many people complaining about the perks will still... Many people complaining about the perks will be the same ones complaining that the game is too easy a few weeks later. You know what? That's honestly a good take. there's going to be people complaining regardless. So we really can't balance the game around complaints. We can balance the game around good points, which plenty of people made about the assault prestige perks and the heavy prestige perks. And even on some of the prestige perks in general, some of them feel a little bit tedious to use. I understand that. The devs understand that. They actually are even working on the, they said the patch was going to be ready this month, but they want to take some time to adjust things. So I'm honestly looking forward to that. The patch notes for patch 7 are going to be very interesting to see the way they take the game after, receiving our feedback from the PTS. So yeah, again, this is a great video to let me know how you feel about the PTS in the comments if you actually, were involved in it. But yeah, this was a great post. This is a great comment. A lot of good feedback centered around the PTS.